What's up everybody, D-Man back. Welcome to a brand new video, and today we're going to be doing another Godzilla vs. Kong news roundup. I'm just gonna jump right into it, starting out with Matt Frank's spiral burning Godzilla picture. I definitely talked about this in a previous video, but I didn't show off the full print. The full print features Godzilla vaporizing Ghidorah. It's so freaking cool. This is, I think, Matt Frank's coolest art piece. I think the burning wings on Godzilla look incredible, but also Ghidorah with those singed up wings looks awesome. I love it. And then he released a Godzilla single and a Ghidorah single print of these. Richard Dorton attended King Kong's Broadway play, tweeting out Team Kong, and it's just cool to see him there standing next to that giant Kong puppet. That's very awesome. Bandai Movie Monster series released a Kong 2021. I think it looks okay. It's not my favorite. I think it's actually worse than the Playmates Kongs, but I do think it has a certain appeal to it as well. The Monarch website is down. It went down in around March of 2021, and it has stayed down ever since. Unfortunately, I thought the Monarch website used for King of the Monsters was very cool. Instead, it has been turned into a Godzilla vs. Kong website that also features an extended Godzilla vs. Kong description that talks about the crew and cast and some of the behind the scenes aspect of the film as well. Jordan Vogt Roberts shared his thoughts on the Godzilla vs. Kong trailer, showing his support, saying that he's very proud to see Kong all growing up, basically going off to college with Adam Wingard. Wingard also posted a statement in support of the fans, talking about how hard it was to make Godzilla vs. Kong and how bleak it looked at times, but how rewarding it was to see the support given for the trailer and how much the whole experience has meant to him. He was talking about how grateful he is to the fans and how much he wanted to give back, which is when he announced that he was doing the trailer reaction compilation that we've talked about in a previous video. Godzilla vs. Kong got a Chinese release date of March 26th, which was a week before it came out in America. It also was revealed it would drop on HBO Max at 12:01 a.m. on March 31st. Godzilla vs. Kong released in the UK via PVOD on April 1st. Weird choice. I guess because they didn't have theaters open. And then its running time of 113 minutes, aka 1 hour and 53 minutes, was revealed. A whole bunch of Godzilla vs. Kong plot announcements came out. These came to us via Fandom, which got their information from Collider. It was reported that Godzilla vs. Kong would not cut away for large chunks of the film to show the humans, instead showing Kong's POV. This is definitely true during the fight scenes and during a lot of the Hollow Earth sequences, as well as the intro for the movie. It was revealed that Godzilla vs. Kong takes place 5 years after King of the Monsters, a decision that I just don't know why they made it. I guess they wanted to age up Madison, I suppose, but it just seems like it didn't really affect the plot a ton, so it's kind of a weird choice to make. I don't have a problem with it, I just think it's an interesting decision. The Hollow Earth was supposedly going to threaten the surface world, which doesn't really happen at all in the movie, I guess because the Hollow Earth has the power source that powers Mechagodzilla, but that's like a really roundabout way of blaming the Hollow Earth for humanity's actions. This is something we knew for a very long time, but the evil version of Monarch was called Apex, and it was doing shady experiments. I don't even know if I would call Apex evil as much as it is corrupt. It's not evil. Their goals weren't evil. They just wanted to kill the monsters that killed people. They just went about it in corrupt ways. And then it was said that Ghidorah would still haunt the film, and we all knew exactly what that meant. It meant that they were going back to his skull. Tamashii Nations featured a Godzilla vs. Kong display in Manhattan. This display had Gia's costume on showcase. I wonder if that's the actual screen-used Gia costume or if that's a replication. It looks like a replication to me, but I wouldn't be able to tell, to be honest. It also featured 2 giant skullcrawler eggs, which are super freaking cool. When I saw these, I didn't know exactly what they were. I thought they were power cores of some sort, and I thought that they were teasing Mechagodzilla, and they sort of are, but if you zoom in and look, yeah, you actually can tell that there's a skullcrawler in there. That's very cool that they would do that kind of details. You've got a typical Godzilla vs. Kong poster. You've actually got 2 of them. And then there is an SH Monster Arts display showing the Godzilla 2019 special color version. This is King of the Monsters. Then they showed off the Godzilla 2021 and the Kong 2021. I'm going to talk about this in another video as well because there was more people who released different stats as well, but Godzilla vs. Kong had a bunch of different stats released. These stats were breaking down Godzilla and Kong themselves. Because I'm going to feature this in another video, I'm not really going to get too much into it other than the heights in this video. First came the Chinese stats, which listed Godzilla as 120 meters. That's not 100% accurate. He's actually 119, but that's a close enough approximation. They do asterisk it, so maybe that was showing that it is an approximation. This puts Godzilla at 394 feet. Meanwhile, the English stats that were released put Godzilla at 393 feet. Here's where it gets interesting, is with our boy Kong. First, Kong had the Chinese release, which puts him at 102 meters. That places Kong at at approximately 335 feet. Next came the English release, which placed Kong at 337 feet. I don't know why that discrepancy would exist, kind of similar to, I guess, what they did with Godzilla where they rounded up, but in this case it seems they rounded down. So apparently Kong was 337 feet, except that's also not 100% confirmed because another English release came out placing Kong at 356 feet. And as if that wasn't confusing enough, there was a Korean promo that revealed Godzilla and Kong's heights as well. All of these were officially sanctioned by Legendary and Warner Bros. From different countries. This one places the 2019 Godzilla, because I guess they just didn't want to change it, at 119.8 meters, which is his confirmed height. Then there's Kong, who is placed at 106.68 meters. Now if you translate that into feet, that's saying that Godzilla is 393 feet, which he is, and Kong is apparently 350 feet. Is Kong 350 feet, or is he 356 feet? Or is he 337 feet? Or maybe he's 335 feet. Point is, we don't actually know how big Kong is. All we know is that he's smaller than Godzilla. He's somewhere over 330 feet, but under 390 feet. That's all we really know. Some behind the scenes stuff of Godzilla vs. Kong was released. I'll talk a lot about this in a second, but the first photo that came out is Adam Wingard directing Millie Bobby Brown, and Julian Dennison is standing there watching. This is right after they filmed a scene where a big explosion goes off next to them. We'll talk about it in a minute, but that seems to be where this is set. I believe this is during Hong Kong in the finale. There was a video that was floating around of Julian Dennison and Millie Bobby Brown doing their secret handshake on the set of Godzilla. Now if you look closely, you can actually tell this is during the original cut from the movie pier destruction scene where Godzilla attacks a pier. The footage was changed so that it's Godzilla's destruction of the Apex headquarters. If you're wondering where this came from, a giant set of B-reel was released from Godzilla vs. Kong showing a bunch of behind the scenes. This 16-minute video is very worth the watch in my opinion, especially if you're a big fan, or a filmmaker for that matter. There was a lot of stuff in here that as a filmmaker I was loving, but I'm just going to run through the quick spark notes of the things that if you don't want to watch this you may have missed. We get a lot of the B-roll of the filming of Godzilla vs. Kong, including quite a bit of the scenes filmed on Skull Island. We have extended scenes of Madison and Josh in class. The first shows 2 Godzilla posters in the background, including one for Monarch and one telling students to seek shelter if they spot a Titan. Madison gets angry and then storms out of class, and then the next one shows Josh passing notes to Madison out the window. We see Mark Russell at his Monarch base. Mark is being a real cute dad, not understanding what GL stands for. I actually really like a lot of these scenes. I wish they kept a lot of them. And then there's a scene that I really love of Mark telling everybody that if they want to say a prayer, now's the time. There's a scene of Nathan and Eileen inside a big blue futuristic looking room. I'm not sure where in the movie this would be set or what it's supposed to be, but I'm speculating that it could be the interior of a heave. I don't know why they'd be in their civilian clothes if that's the case though. We get some scenes of the attack of the Monarch base that we've seen a ton of times. This footage floats around all the time. There's some alternate takes of Josh and Madison's road trip. Josh turns on breaking the law in this scene rather than before when he pulls up to her place. I think they changed it for the better. We get a lot of footage of the attack at the pier. If you look at Josh's shirt in the scene where they're doing their little secret handshake, it's the same shirt that he wears when she picks him up. He actually doesn't wear that shirt in the movie. That shirt is specifically used in the scene when she picks him up, and then they change his shirt because it was supposed to be set on a different day. They originally went to the pier in this scene, Godzilla attacks, and then the plot kicks off from there. We see the BTS of Nathan trying to convince Eileen to take Kong to the Hollow Earth. This is a practical set. They shot this on location. Every time I watch this scene in Godzilla vs. Kong, it looks like the actors are green screened into the background very poorly, but I guess they just have such a narrow field of focus that the actors are the only thing in focus and everything else looks green screened in. Very weird. The cutest part of this is that you can actually see Kaylee Hoddle trying to play with some floating cotton, and then you can see how they cue her to go in because obviously she's deaf, so she can't hear the audio cue of when she's supposed to go in, so they physically cue her so that she knows to enter frame. We get a little bit more BTS of how they filmed with Kaylee Hoddle, seeing Wingard wiggle this stick around. That's actually, if I'm not mistaken, how he calls action for her. That's how she knows that it's time to do her lines. We get a shot of Nathan meeting Maya that has some alternate dialogue that was changed for the better. There's some shots of Kaylee having fun on set. We get a look at Bernie's extended monologue at the Chinese restaurant. I think it was all condensed for the better. Eileen has an extended speech about how she met Gia and how Kong is her protector, and it's really awesome. I really wish they kept that in the movie. We get a lot of shots of the extended ship flooding scene with a look at how the flooding elevator moment worked. This is a moment Kaylee Hoddle's talked a lot about. It's a moment where her and Eileen are in the elevator as it flips upside down and it starts to fill with water. As we see here, Nathan tries to free them before going to free Kong. He tries to free them, and then another Monarch officer takes over, and then he jumps into the water to save Kong. I think this would have been a great moment of tension, and I don't know if I want it in the movie because I do think it's great, but I also think the pacing of that scene works really well in the film as is. There's some extended scenes sneaking around the remains of the Apex base. They also have to get past some security guards, which I do wish we got at least one shot of those police officers guarding the facility, because in the movie it seems very strange that it would be unguarded. There's a lot of goofing around, having fun on set, and a lot of shots of Wingard being very great with the younger cast. There's a scene of them sneaking into the Ghidorah skull, looking into the main headquarters directly. I kind of wish that was added in the movie, because as it stands, the geography of the Ghidorah skull is a little weird when you cut inside and all of a sudden it's filled with glass paneling and it looks very different than it does in any other shot. There's some shots of what we will talk about in a long time. We'll talk about this, but Kong's Hollow Earth Temple has a secret room that they did some scenes in. In this scene, Nathan is injured. G and Eileen try and help him. Kaylee Otto is talking about how some explosions go off in a scene similar to this. I'm assuming this takes place when Godzilla erupts Kong's temple. In some original draft of the movie, they wound up in a secret corridor, but that seems to be what's happening here. There's some shots of Mark in the Hong Kong base doing an extended phone call with Madison. It was changed for the better. There was no time for that. Eileen and Gia wake Nathan up in Hong Kong with some extended dialogue. We also see Wingard and Rebecca Hall recording some wild lines. Before I really understood filmmaking to the extent that I do now anyways, I was very confused what was happening in this shot. I thought that they were practicing the lines, but I'm pretty sure rewatching it, you've got a boom guy booming them. I'm pretty sure it's her recording the dialogue so that you can get the same room tone of where she's at, and then you take that audio and you overlay it over the video. You do that if you can't get clean audio during the take, or if you just want to have backup audio, and I believe that's what's happening here, which is why she's giving multiple iterations of the same line, and why he's pushing her until they start laughing. And then finally we see that shot that I mentioned earlier where Madison and Josh get exploded, presumably in the Apex control room after Mechagodzilla erupts through the wall, and then they get up and hug, which I think is a cute little moment. We could have gotten like one shot of that at least, right? I don't know, I liked it. Alright, that'll do it for this one, guys. I want to give a huge thank you to all my patrons on Patreon. They are keeping the channel running, and their support really does mean a lot. If you want to support the Patreon, you can using the link in the description below, where you can get early access to content, access to the Discord community, and more. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I will see you guys next time for the next one. D-Man, out!